3 days ago, you were the finest hunter this tribe had ever seen. Today, no one will meet your eyes. No fight ever happened. No one ever raised a fist. And yet, your entire life was quietly destroyed, one whispered word at a time. Let's go back. Back to where it all began. That morning began with meat. You came back from the hunt carrying more than your share. You did what hunters have always done. The biggest portion to the tribe's oldest elder. The smallest to a rival who'd challenged you weeks before. No words passed between you. None were needed. Research on reciprocal cooperation suggests that favors inside a small group are rarely forgotten. A debt no one writes down, but no one forgets either. That morning, without meaning to, you pulled one thread too tight. Someone had already decided to cut it. By afternoon, a whisper moved through camp thin as smoke. You weren't part of that conversation. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar argues human language itself may have evolved for exactly this. Tracking who can be trusted, who's rising, who's falling. A tribe survives by knowing these things. But the same instinct that binds a group together can just as easily become a blade. Someone was talking about you. You just didn't know it yet. By evening, the first crack showed. A friend who always laughed at your jokes didn't. He looked past you toward the fire, where your rival sat close to the elder, speaking low, warm, urgent. What was said? You couldn't hear it. You could only feel the group's temperature shift, like a current changing direction beneath still water. Watch the elder's face the next morning. Colder than you've ever seen it. Your rival, meanwhile, turned suddenly, suspiciously warm toward him. Gifts appeared. Compliments landed loudly, in front of others. Evolutionary researchers argue that early humans developed a deep sensitivity to attention and warmth, because in infancy that attention once meant survival itself. Your rival understood this instinct better than you did. He wasn't earning trust slowly, the way you had. He was buying it in bulk, before anyone could ask the price. You tried asking the elder what was wrong. No clear answer. Just a strange discomfort, as if something had already been decided about you that he didn't want to explain. That same day, the healer found your mother with grave news. Your bad luck, she said, was no accident. The spirits were displeased. Something had gone wrong, somewhere, inside your family, she said. She never named what. She didn't need to. Fear rarely needs details to spread. Anthropologists studying small-scale societies suggest fear dressed in spiritual language may have quietly enforced obedience long before any formal law existed. Whether the healer believed her own words made no difference. People stepped back from you, just slightly, as though your presence itself might now be dangerous. 3 separate forces were now closing in at once. Not one of them had announced itself as an attack. By the second evening, something stranger happened. You clearly remembered offering to share the northern hunting ground with anyone willing to help clear it. Now people spoke as if you'd hoarded the land for yourself. You said it wasn't true. But the story had already hardened into memory. Theirs, not yours. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus proved that memory can be reshaped by suggestion, often without anyone realizing it has happened. A confident voice, repeated enough times, can rewrite what an entire group believes it witnessed. Then came the worst part. You turned to the 2 people you trusted most, expecting them to speak up. They hesitated. Weeks earlier, in private, they'd agreed with everything you believed about fairness and sharing. Now, in front of others, they said nothing. Behavioral experiments consistently show that people will often deny what they clearly know to be true, simply to avoid standing alone against a group's agreed version of events. Your allies weren't lying to hurt you. They were protecting themselves from becoming the next target. That's the moment isolation became complete. No one announced it. No formal decision was made. People simply stopped sitting near you. Stopped inviting you to plan the next hunt. Studies of early human societies indicate that bands developed strong resistance to anyone gathering too much power, standing too far above the group. If the tribe suspected you'd grown selfish, grown dangerous to the balance, no one needed to fight you directly. They only needed to stop including you and let the silence finish the job. You began to wonder if you deserved it. Maybe you'd been careless. Said something wrong without noticing. That's when the guilt arrived, carried by your own mother, gently, the way guilt so often travels. She reminded you of the hard winter years ago, when the tribe fed your family through an illness no one expected you to survive. You owed them, she said. Patience now. Humility now. Silence now. You'd never forgotten that winter. But hearing it spoken aloud, at exactly this moment, felt heavier, like a stone quietly set into your chest. Evolutionary psychologists suggest guilt likely evolved precisely to enforce cooperation inside a group. It becomes far more powerful, however, when someone chooses the exact moment to remind you of a debt you already carry. Still, one question stayed buried under all of it. Why you? Why now? The answer came on the third night, through your rival's own mouth, spoken carelessly to someone who repeated it back to you, word for word. He wanted the northern hunting ground for himself, the very one you'd promised to share. He wanted the standing that came with it. And he understood something you hadn't learned yet. In a tribe of 30 people, you don't need to defeat a rival in open combat. You only need to make the group stop trusting you, one quiet conversation at a time. Primatologist Franz de Waal documented nearly identical coalition building among chimpanzees, alliances formed carefully long before any open challenge ever occurs. Once you understood the mechanism, every piece snapped into focus, laid out like footprints after rain. The sudden warmth toward the elder, the healer's perfectly timed fear, the reshaped memory of the hunting ground, the friends who stayed silent to protect themselves. None of it required a single act of violence. Classic studies on obedience to authority help explain why it worked so completely. Once the elder's judgment shifted, others followed his lead almost automatically, trusting his authority more than their own direct experience of you. But understanding a trap does not free you from it. Reputation, once bent, does not simply snap back into shape. Something your rival hadn't accounted for. Not everything in a tribe runs on manipulation. Research on human cooperation indicates that honest collaboration is not merely a trick played by the clever few. Cooperation itself can be a stable, winning strategy over time, built on shared understanding and cultural knowledge passed carefully between people. That, more than deception, is what allowed small tribes to outlast far larger threats. So you began speaking honestly, patiently, to the people you had lost, one at a time, rebuilding by hand what rumor alone had torn down in a day. Slowly, the current shifted again. The friend who once looked away began meeting your eyes. The elder, hearing the full account from more than one voice now, grew quieter, less certain of the story he had accepted so easily. Your rival, sensing the shift, grew visibly uneasy for the first time in 3 days. Funny how the smoke that spread so easily is so much harder to gather back into one place. That night, the tribe gathered around the same fire where everything had first turned against you. Words were finally spoken aloud, plainly, without gossip's disguise. Reconciliation did not erase what happened. But primatologists have observed that reconciliation, embracing, sharing food again, speaking honestly after conflict, may be just as essential to a group's survival as competition itself. A tribe that cannot repair what manipulation breaks does not survive long as a tribe at all. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky's research suggests why the last 3 days felt so unbearable in your own body, why your hands shook long before your mind understood any of it. Social threat, exclusion, falling status, can trigger the same stress response as physical danger. To an ancient nervous system, losing your place at the fire can feel almost like losing your life itself. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman's work adds one final, uncomfortable piece. Much of what happened to you these past 3 days likely required no careful planning at all. Fast, automatic social instinct, not deliberate calculation, may explain most of it. In your rival, in the elder, in the friends who briefly looked away. Your hands have finally stopped shaking. You sit again where you always sat, close to the fire, close to people who trust you once more. But nothing here is as solid as it feels. A single rumor, spoken at the right moment, can still undo years of loyalty in 3 days or less. The exact words, the precise intentions, the full truth of any single mind around that ancient fire remain things researchers can only interpret carefully, never prove completely. What can be said with more confidence is this. The fire has changed locations many times since then. The instincts circling it never really have.